Okay, hello and welcome to today's webinar, Coping Skills for Mothers Who Feel Overwhelmed and How to Prevent Burnout. Before we get started, I'm going to go through some housekeeping rules to ensure you can interact with myself and the presenter. Firstly, if you wish to ask the presenter a question, please leave a question in the Q&A box. We also have an open chat feature enabled. To access this and chat with other attendees, simply click on the chat icon. I would now like to welcome our speaker for today. Linda Raoul, LCSW, is the founder of Her Heart Counseling Center. She is a licensed clinical social worker in the state of New Jersey, and an approved clinical supervisor, a certified school social worker, and speaker. She has completed her master's degree in social work and holds a postmaster's certification in trauma treatment. Welcome, Linda, and we are so glad that you can be here today to share your insight.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I just want to say that it is an honor to be here. Thank you, Nikisha, and also to the Long Branch Public Library. I just want to say hello to everyone. As Nikisha mentioned, my name is Linda Raoul, and I am the founder of Her Heart Counseling Center. It's a virtual therapy practice where we focus on the emotional and mental well-being of teen girls and women. We strive for teen girls to find healing, for women to be empowered and to feel restored. That is the mission of our therapy practice. We work with individuals, teens, and joint mother-daughter sessions to improve the quality of a mother and daughter relationship, because I just believe that it is so important. Once again, I do thank you guys for being here. So before we get started, I just want to do a brief check-in. If you can look at the screen, whatever color heart that you identify with, if you could just write that in the chat, or if you can unmute yourself just to check in and let me know how you're doing, how you're feeling tonight. I don't think that I'm able to see the chat, Nikisha. I can't really hear you. You're muted.
It looks like no one's put anything in the chat.
Okay. We'll give some more time, just about a minute or two. You could just drop red, you could drop yellow, blue, purple, just so we could do a check-in to see how we're doing mentally.
I'll test it out. Let's see. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's see. There we go.
Okay, on my end, I can't see anything.
Okay, you didn't. Okay.
Okay, so Nikisha's feeling a little bit orange today. I think I'm between the red and the orange. Okay, so today's talk is going to be about finding out the importance of our mental health. With that said, we're going to highlight on the Superwoman syndrome, identifying unrealistic roles and expectations that society and we place on ourselves as African women, African American women, and Caribbean women and minorities, identifying what mental health looks like for African American women and minority women, and also adjusting the cape. Not totally removing that Superwoman cape, but adjusting it to find ways to cope with our mental health. And also, I'll put a list of resources at the very end, so I find very helpful for everyone. Before we get started, I'm going to ask you to grab a piece of paper, grab a pen. If you don't have anything near, I want you to imagine, write down what you have witnessed your mother, your grandmother, your aunt, your favorite women that has been influential in your life model in terms of managing their emotions, their workload, and balancing family life. What did that look like? As you reflect, I want you to think about, was there an option not to get the work done? Was there an option not to show up? Did they make it work with the little bit of resources that they had? Were they able to openly share about their feelings and their life stressors and things that they were encountering as a woman? What do you remember? I know for me, growing up, I am Haitian American. So growing up, I had this idea of what a young girl was supposed to be, what a woman was supposed to be. I noticed my mom, although she was sick, although, she didn't have means, she would wake up every single day, she would cook. We really didn't know when she was feeling sick. We really didn't know if she couldn't. In our eyes, she showed up every single day. She made it work, whether it be working one job, two jobs. She made it work by coming home, helping us with homework, running around with us, going shopping. She came home, cooked dinner. She attended to her husband. She attended to her friends. She held several roles in the community and her church. And she did everything where I would never think as a young girl that that would be a problem. She made it seem so effortlessly that, we are supposed to get up and we are supposed to do these things. So as seeing her and seeing other aunts and other women in the community, they define what strength was. What us as young girls that aspire to one day grow up to be a woman, they painted that picture of what it was supposed to look like. And if you did not fit the mold, then it left something for you to question yourself. Were you enough? Were you enough as a mother? Were you enough as a woman? So growing up, we always strive to do these things, but we also question, although it was good and it paved a way, what can it do and what did it do to our mental health? Did it do to her mental health? What did it do to her health that was never talked about? So we are going to explore this superwoman complex, this superwoman schema that we put pressure on ourselves, how detrimental it is to us, to our mental health and to our health. So to start off with some facts, when it comes to mental health issues, Black women are more likely to experience mental health related issues due to lower income, poor health, and multiple role strain. We wear many hats as Black women. Only 1/3 of Black Americans who need mental health actually receive it. 40 million adult Americans have been diagnosed with anxiety. Mental health in African American women is underreported. African Americans are one of the most undertreated groups for depression because of the stigma that are associated with mental health. Black women don't seek out treatment. And if we do, what does that mean? Are we weak? Does it go against that superwoman syndrome? Black women are twice as likely to experience an episode of major depression in comparison to men. Sadly, only half of these women will actually seek help. So that says a lot. That says a lot. It's underreported because we don't know. People don't show up. Especially in my practice, when people come to therapy, they're not coming because I feel anxious. They're not coming because they've been diagnosed with anxiety or depression. They're coming because they feel burnt out, they feel drained, and not having the words to actually say, this is what's going on. They're coming because they feel hopeless, they feel that they are not enough. But when we start to dig and unpeel the layers, it goes back to symptoms of anxiety, taking on so much pressure and so much roles that these issues are actually playing against our mental health. So they're not showing up because, I can't sleep. They're going to the doctors because, it's probably acid reflux that they feel. But in all actuality, the doctor ends up saying everything is all right. And when you come to therapy, you actually find out that it is symptoms of anxiety that they're dealing with. So I see a lot of women come in, and it's not because of anxiety per se. They won't call it anxiety, but they will say, I'm feeling drained, I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'm having issues with so-and-so. And when we unpeel, then the anxiety and the depression is there. So how does depression and anxiety show up for Black women, right? Sadness, excessive sadness, but you learn to push through it, right? um, Experiencing constant fear, especially with COVID-19, with all the political injustices that are going on, thinking about our sons, thinking about our brothers and our significant other, constant fear that something will happen, fear to the point it may even paralyze someone from stepping out and doing the things that you would desire to do. Feeling empty, you're irritable. A lot of times I'll hear clients say, everything and everyone just gets on my nerve. I don't want to deal anymore. They're getting on my nerves. Feeling worthless, this feeling that I am not enough, a decrease or increase in appetite, isolation. I just don't want to be bothered with anyone, feeling overwhelmed. There's a lack of connection with others. Suicidal ideation. A lot of times I find that African American women will not say, I feel suicidal, but they'll say, if God was to take me out, I would be all right? Weight loss, weight gain, somatic complaints like chronic headaches, stomach and GI issues, shortness of breath, racing heartbeat, just that constant stress that plays into our bodies. You know, the body keeps the score. The body will let us know exactly what the heart is feeling. So stress a lot of time shows up in a somatic way. Issues falling asleep, staying asleep, or even sleeping too much. Like you're just not yourself. You're feeling drained emotionally, mentally. I feel like I can't remember anything. I just can't get it together, right? So you can't focus. Your concentration is affected. Excessive worrying, not interested in things that you used to do. Let's just say someone calls you, hey, Friday night, let's go out. You're just not interested. The things that used to bring you joy no longer bring you joy. And also the need to control your environment, to control your relationships. And that's just a form of anxiety, but we're so fearful, we try to control everything to control the outcome. So these are some of the ways that we'll see that depression and anxiety will show up. Now, what is this superwoman schema that I talk about, right? So the superwoman schema was birthed from a study that was done by Dr. Woods Giscoby. And basically her research, the purpose of her research was to examine the relationship between stress and health amongst African American women, right? So if there's a study being done, that goes to show you that it is a problem, right? A lot of people's talking about it, they want to investigate. So this superwoman role has been identified as the Black woman's experience in life. We've had to struggle. We've had to fight to get where we want to get, right? That's what we saw our grandmothers did. And back in the days, that's what our moms did. And even now, we are still doing it. We're fighting for a seat at the table. We're fighting to be seen. We're fighting to be heard. We're fighting to be successful. And with all of that fight comes pressure that we put on ourselves. We have it all together, and we must be strong at all times. There's no time to be weak, right? We show up and we save the day. We get up, we throw our cape on, and we are the superwomen. The superwomen for our significant other, our friends. We're that strong friend, and we're also that strong mother, right? So 5 elements of the superwoman schema, the superwoman syndrome. I want you to think about, where do you fit in? Could you identify? Do you know a woman that shows up as the superwoman? So one of the elements is feeling an obligation to be present, to present an image of strength. I have to be strong, right? I cannot cry. I can't be weak. Although I cannot show up physically, I must show up because everyone is depending on me. That's where the strength comes from. That's the pressure. That's the expectation. Number 2, a feeling, an obligation to suppress our emotions. We can't show emotions, because if we show emotions, that means that someone can use it against us. That means that we're saying we're weak and we actually need help. So I'm not going to ask for help because I don't want to look weak. Hence, being a superwoman. Resistance to being vulnerable. Now, if I expose myself, if I open up my heart and I tell you that I feel scared, I can't do certain things, then you now have the power to use that against me. You now have the power to say you're going to come through and don't come through for me. And I'm going to experience disappointment that I've already experienced from other people. So I'm just going to pass out and I'm not going to be vulnerable, right? A drive to succeed despite limited resources. We're going to get it done by all means necessary. Limited resource, limited income, limited education, what be it, we're going to get it done. And there's no ands or ifs about it. Feeling obligation to help others. I am my sister's keeper. This is our community. This is what I have to do. So regardless if you're able to do it or not, there's an obligation to show up for your sister, an obligation to show up for your cousin, an obligation to show up for the other African American woman that's at your job. That's just what we do as African women. That's been embedded in us. That's our community. We raise our children by community, you know? So all of that, all of those elements, they can be good coping mechanisms for us, right? They make us feel safe and it's okay. But the issue is when it becomes a detriment to us, to our health, to our mental health, when it no longer works. So that's why I say we don't have to remove the key totally. We can learn to adjust. We can learn new ways to cope and lighten the load. So that's what adjusting the cape is all about. So some of the ways that these coping mechanisms can hurt us is a detriment to our health, right? We know that African American women, they're dying at higher rates from strokes caused by high blood pressure than white women. We're dealing with obesity, right? Chronic stress is linked to an increase of cortisol. And if you do research, the increase of cortisol shows up in your midsection, right? So we gain the weight because of the chronic stress as well. So these are all the things to show us that hypertension, diabetes, the sickness that a lot of us African Americans are diagnosed with, if we learn to manage our stress, if we learn to ask for help, then we can also in turn learn to manage these sicknesses. Our mental health. It affects our mental health tremendously. How we feel about ourselves, how we see ourselves, the way that the language that we even talk to ourselves, the depression, the anxiety. Anxiety is, an unrealistic expectation that we place on ourselves. We place on other people. And when it is not met, then we feel the anxiety. When people do not show up in the way that we will want them to, then we feel the anxiety. When we don't have the skills to be assertive, to set boundaries in our relationships, and we show up because people are expecting, then that affects our mental health. It does not allow us to care for ourselves the way that we should care for ourselves. So there's many ways that it is a detriment to us. It affects the way that we show up for ourselves. We can't truly be authentic. When we show up because of everyone's needs, we don't know what our needs are. We don't know what our wants are. We don't know how to get our needs fulfilled because everything else does not matter. It's about the other person and not yourself. It affects the relationship that matters the most. If we've had to work so hard all our lives, we're picking up jobs, random jobs, we're picking up 2 or 3 different jobs to make ends meet. What about the values that we have? The values that we have for our family, our children. So that's how it shows up in the relationship that does matter. We're not present for ourselves and we're not present for our children. So as mothers, I want you to be mindful of what you put your time into. I want you to be intentional about setting your day, right? So you could be there for your babies. So you could be there for the relationships that matter the most. If you cannot present your most authentic self, then what is that serving to the other person? What is it serving to you? It brings on a lot of comparing. questioning if I'm a good enough woman, if I'm a good enough mother. Where does this notion of being a good mother comes from? What is a good mother? You get up every day, you make sure your babies are fed, there's clothes on their back, right? They have somewhere to sleep, they play, you're present in their lives. You are doing enough. You are doing enough. And you have the power to create your own definition of what a good mother is. Let go of the pressures of the superwoman syndrome of what it should be like, or what the expectation of society makes it feel that it should be like. Let that go, because you are doing enough. If you're here today, that means you're doing something right. You showed up. You said you wanted to learn. You wanted to learn about coping skills, and that is just enough. That is enough. Self-sacrifice. Being a superwoman sometimes, putting everybody's needs first. What you're actually saying and what you're actually doing is saying that my needs don't matter. I don't matter. I will show up for everyone, even if I'm tired, even if I'm feeling the ache in my body. I don't go to the doctors as much because I will be all right. But I'm going to show up for the next person. If someone calls you and they're not feeling well, you're cooking a meal, you're sending over tea. How can I assist you? The question I pose to you is, how can you assist yourself? How can you choose yourself and put yourself first? How can you put your hand on your heart to say that I am important? My needs come first. I come first. And another way that it hurts us, what are you modeling for your children? Children may not always ask, they may not always have the right language, but our behaviors, what we model, our children are watching. So if we're self-sacrificing, if we're putting everyone's needs before us, then we teach our babies that it's okay, that everybody else matters, that everybody else come first, and they don't. So we have to be mindful of our choices and how we show up, because our babies are watching. A mother's mental health impacts our children as well. So you set the tone for what mental health and self-care should look like in your home. So now that I've given a little bit of background why mental health is important, you see the numbers, there's no, the fact can't even be any clearer that we need these interventions, that we need to learn how to incorporate coping skills. So I prepared a list for you, and you could pick out what fits you, what suits you, what what you can take, what you could save for another day. I ask you, and I pose to you today, do you feel that you are ready, worthy? Do you feel that you are worthy of rest? Is rest and self-care a badge of honor? If I don't work, I don't earn it. How do you determine that you need rest and you need self-care? So one thing I would suggest, right? The first thing I would suggest is changing your mindset, letting go of expectations. You're doing enough, right? No matter what people are expecting of you, it is about what you expect for yourself. Whose standards are you living by? What is valuable to you? When you know what's valuable to you, you no longer worry about what others are saying. So letting go of that mindset. I can have both. You can be a superwoman that practices self-care. You can be a superwoman that shows up. You can be a superwoman that learns the language that her body's speaking when she's tired and she needs rest. So adjusting and changing your mindset. Showing yourself grace, right? And what is this grace that I talk about? We extend and offer grace to everybody, right? Someone makes a mistake and they come to you and they share their experience with you. And you're like, oh my God, I'm sorry. It shouldn't have happened. You'll be okay. I'm here for you. We extend it to everyone except for ourselves. It's okay as a mother to forget to pack lunch one day. It's all right. It's okay if you forgot to get the supplies that was needed to do the schoolwork with your child. It happens. It's not the end of the world. Show yourself grace. You've had a long day. You've had a long week. You're balancing multiple roles. Extend grace to yourself along the journey. It's needed. Listen to your body. As I said before, the somatic complaints that show up, right? The headaches. So when you start to feel that you're having headaches every single day, where's that coming from? When you start to feel drained physically, mentally, you don't want to get up out of bed, what is your body telling you? Can you afford to go out this weekend or not? Where do you need to set boundaries? Learning the language of your body. Number 4, one of my favorites. You have to learn how to pour from your overflow, right? You can't pour from an empty cup. You have to pour from your overflow. So everyone else gets the extra, right? You better believe that when Linda comes through, Linda's going to fill herself up first. Because if I don't, I can't give it to anybody else. Another example, anyone loves to travel? I love to travel, right? So when you get on the plane and you're ready to go and you're fastening your seatbelt and everything's all good, and the flight attendant gets on the speaker and they say, you know, can you give them your attention? And they do this whole spiel, like if something was to happen, you're going to grab your oxygen bag. What do they say do? You're going to put it on yourself first. They do not say, look around, put it on your neighbor, look around, put it on your children, put it on your significant other. Put it on yourself first. So I want you to be intentional every morning when you wake up. You're giving life to yourself first. You're being intentional about putting you first, because nothing else matters if you're not living a quality life. You can't give what you don't have. So I want you to learn to pour from your overflow so that it could keep giving, right? We can't pour from something that's empty. Letting go of mommy guilt. Whew, I hear that a lot. I hear that a lot. I'm not good enough. As if your child's going to be mad at you because you forgot lunch. How long are they going to be upset if something didn't go their way? They're not upset that long. In their eyes, you're a celebrity. In their eyes, you're their superwoman. They talk about you to their friends. Their teachers know about you. I'll share a story about my niece. Haven't been blessed with children as of yet, but I have a niece who's like my mini niece. She's 8 years old. And we were taking her mother out for her birthday. We was going out to the city. It's just the 3 of us, the aunt and my sister, you know. And we invited her to come along just so she could see the experience. And as we're driving into the city, she begins to share how she went to school and told her teacher about going out with her mother and her aunt. And that Friday was ladies' hangout, right? So to us, it seems very minimal. But for her, it meant the world. So that little mistake that you've made, the little slip up that you had, trust me, it means nothing because you've done so much more. Your children are looking up to you and they are blessed. They are happy that you have been chosen to be their mom. So let go of that guilt. It doesn't serve anyone. Get a strong support system. I truly, truly, truly believe that healing does not come in isolation. It doesn't. We need others, right? We can be mindful of who we let into our circles, right? We can be mindful of who we're open and vulnerable to. But the reality is we need somebody. We need that one sister that we're going to call and say, you know, today I'm not doing okay. This is what I'm feeling. Or we need that one person that's just going to show up and we could just sit there in silence and they understand the language of your heart. Your tears as they stream, that sister know and they got you, right? And I'm going to also plug in right now, seeking professional help. Sometimes you need someone to come in, someone that's non-judgmental, right? That doesn't know you, and for you to be able to be yourself, for you to be able to peel the layers, for you to be able to learn skills and learn tools so you can be all right. That's also part of self-care, taking care of your mental health as well. Develop a self-care plan. Now, what does that look like? Now, I know when we talk about self-care, people will say, well, I don't have the money. I don't have the time. I'm not going to a retreat. I can't afford, or I don't have the time to go to a spa. Self-care is more than that. Self-care is not just about doing your hair, getting your hair done, getting your nails done. It's not about just going out to eat, going to brunch. It's not only about going to the spa. Self-care can also look like, for a mother that has children, waking up an hour earlier and dedicating that time to you, right? Self-care can be sleeping in late. That Saturday morning, instead of getting up as if you're going to work, allow yourself an hour or two, lay in the bed. That can be self-care. Self-care can also be putting the children to sleep and watching your favorite TV show, catching up with a friend that you haven't caught up with. That can also be self-care. Self-care can be putting up the sun, lighting up the candles, making sure your home smells good, right? To kind of improve your mood. Those things are self-care as well. And we can also do it as a family effort and teach our children about self-care, right? So how beautiful it would be to carve out an hour or two where we turn off the electronics, right? No TV, no phone, and we're actually sitting down painting, or we're doing mindful coloring while there's music of oceans and bells and everything in the background, just soothing music to help us feel good. What do we show our children when we're able to do that? That we matter, that they matter, right? That they could take time for themselves. So self-care is what you created and what you define self-care to be. And I have one thing that I share with families, particularly women when I work with them. You can come up with a code word for your family. For example, if it's butterflies, right? And as soon as you say butterfly, people know that you need your space. So you can also teach your children that this is the family code word. If it's said, I will be retreating to my room, to the living room, and taking care of myself. Okay? Paying attention to what you put in your body. Food is very important when it comes to our mental health, anxiety, letting go of caffeine. Coffee, caffeine will do it to you. Processed food. Serve your body the omegas, the fatty food that we need, like salmon, walnuts, fruits, whole fruits and vegetables. Those things are good for us. They're good for our body. When we're drinking coffee, a cup of coffee a day, 2-3 cups of coffee a day, it makes us feel jittery. Some people, it makes them feel jittery. You're more anxious. You feel like your heart is racing. You feel like you're bouncing and you're all over the place. So we also have to be mindful of what we're feeding ourselves, what we're feeding our children as well. Develop a good sleep hygiene. I know that when we talk about hygiene, we also always think about, the way we groom ourselves, the way we show up, that's hygiene. But there's also a such thing as good sleep hygiene. What is good sleep hygiene? It's basically creating a plan so you can ensure that you get a good night's sleep. So what that would look like, our phone, we don't see it, but it has something called blue light in it. And the more we stay on our phone, the more that blue light affects us and keeps us up. So if we're having trouble sleeping and our phones are in our hands, we're not helping the situation. So a good sleep hygiene may be, if your goal is to be in bed by 10 o'clock, you start winding down by 8. getting them in the shower, dimming down the lights, putting some soothing music on, like your pajamas, and then you set the tone so when your head hits your pillow, you're able to fall asleep. I also like using these apps. One of them is called Relax Melodies or Calm, and you can pick different soothing music that you want to hear. I usually pick like the ocean, the waves, and I'll put like butterfly and the piano, and you make a combo and you just let it play until you fall asleep, right? So developing a good sleep hygiene. Reduce your screen time. I'm gonna just end it on this note. We have so much pressure, right? When we scroll on Facebook, we scroll on Instagram, we see what everybody else is doing, and we start to compare. Reduce the screen time. Know what you need in that moment. If when you go in, you go on these apps and you're seeing someone's story and it's affecting your mental health, be a good judge of character. This is not for me right now. Just like at the height of the pandemic, right? We were getting overwhelmed. Everyone was stressed. Everyone was anxious. Regardless if you had coping skills or not, you were anxious because we didn't know what would happen. But we stayed glued on to CNN, to the news. I had to be intentional of what I let into my life, what energy I let in, because would not want to experience the anxiety. So be mindful of your screen time and how you spend your time. So some brief interventions that I put on that you could kind of, use at your own will. Prayer for those who believe in God. It's okay to have Jesus in therapy, okay? It's okay to have God in therapy. It's okay to pray, be mindful, and still take care of yourself. Meditation, for some who like that, liking to be in the present moment, being mindful. I talk about mindfulness a lot. It's being in the present moment and not judging yourself, right? Experiencing what is it that I feel right now? What is going on in my body? Experiencing the present moment. And it allows you to feel all of your emotions. You can use deep breathing. So sometimes when we're overwhelmed, we tend to breathe from our chest or we hyperventilate and it looks like this. That's not deep breathing, right? You want to breathe from your belly. So you could actually place your hand on your belly, one on your chest. You can lay down on your bed and place something on your stomach. And as you breathe in through your nose and then breathe out, you will see your stomach expand and go back in. Then you'll know that you're doing it. So you can count to 3, you can exhale through your mouth, and then you practice those grounding techniques, right? What's going on right now? I'm safe, I'm good right now. There's no danger. What do I see? What do I smell? Incorporate your senses as well. Journaling, my favorite. Journaling and brain dumping, right? Brain dumping, imagine I have my bag right here, right? Imagine that you have your bag, and for women, we have everything in our bags. Anything you ask us, we have it in our bags. A bobby pin, a pen, our children's stuff, we have it in our bags. So imagine taking your bag, dumping it out on the table. That's what brain dumping does for our brain, for our mind. Everything that you have running through your mind that's causing the anxiety, you're dumping it on paper. So what that look like, you're actually writing things down. You're not judging yourself. You're being mindful. If I have to go shopping, I have to pick up this, such and such, I need to call them. I'm experiencing difficulty in this relationship. Anything that is occupying your emotions, you put it in brain dumping, and then you tend to organize how you feel. What is it making you feel this way? What can you do to be better, right? To manage your feelings. Practice gratitude. With everything going on, we're in the midst of a pandemic. A lot of you guys, I commend you guys. Hats off to you, mothers. You guys have really rocked during 2020 and 2021. You graduated from being a mother, an employee, to now a teacher. Kudos to you guys, right? But although it's been hard, although it's been tough, Find time to find something that you are grateful for, right? Gratitude, when we take the time to find what we're grateful for and show gratitude, it has a positive effect on our mood, right? It's telling us that I'm choosing to be happy because of this, right? Although it's Monday, I didn't want to get up today, but you know what? I'm grateful I had to get up and I had a job to come to. I'm grateful because I was able to come tonight and speak to some amazing women, right? Finding the best in everything. Replacing your negative thinking with positive affirmations, right? I am enough. I can do everything that I put my mind to. I'm a good mother. My children are proud of me, right? I am beautiful. I am strong in my own terms, creating my own definition, creating those positive affirmations, right? Because our words have so much power. There's a correlation with what we think, it affects how we feel, and then it affects how we behave and how we respond. So if our thoughts, we're grabbing hold of our thoughts and we're thinking positive, right? Then we start to feel good about ourselves. Then our interaction, our life experiences becomes a better experience. It's more positive. Be kind to yourself. This is your journey as an African American woman, your journey as a minority woman, your personal journey as a mother. Motherhood did not come with a guide, right? So you're figuring out, with every child is different, it's a different experience. Embrace, right, the good parts, the bad parts, because it is your journey. So with that said, I am going to wrap up here. If you guys have any questions, I am going to open up the floor so I can answer any questions that you may have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Linda. That was a very insightful. I must mention before, the reason no one was responding is because I did not have chat activated.
Oh,
So
okay.
it is now. So if anyone has any questions, please type it into chat, or if you want to type it into the Q&A box, that's perfect as well. So please, if you have any questions. Just give everyone a moment to type away. So let me just make sure that this is.
I think you have to be my ears, Nikisha. I can't really see the chat because I have my screen up.
Oh, I see. Okay, so I'm going to check to see if there's anything here. It doesn't look like we have anything in the chat.
Okay. Sounds good. I hope everything was the tips, the interventions were helpful to you. I can be reached at, if you need to find out more information about me and my counseling practice, I can be reached at www.herheartcounseling.com. Just reach out. You can send an email. Feel free to call us. And I've also put together some resources if you are feeling overwhelmed, if you are feeling that, you want someone to speak to. You don't have to wait till it's too much. You can reach out to therapy for preventative measures. You can reach out for therapy because you have some goals that you want to crush and you just want help on doing that. So you can go to Therapy for Black Girls. It's a website that has a host of amazing African American and minority women therapists. I do believe that representation matters. So you can check it out. You can also check out Psychology for Today, where you can read bios of different therapists as well. The apps that I did mention in my talk, Relax Melodies and Calm, you can actually go through your Apple's store, Play Store. Is it Play Store with Apple? Your Apple Store. And you can type in Relax Melodies or Calm. And I believe Relax Melodies is free, so which is really, really good for your sleep hygiene.
All right, so if there aren't any questions, I'd like to thank you for all attending this our story series that we have going on. This session was recorded, so you can find it on our YouTube page. And if you have any further questions, you can always reach out to us at longbranchfreepubliclibrary@gmail.com, and we will have everything stored here. So once again, Linda, I'd like to thank you for hosting this wonderful program.
Thank you for having me, Nikisha.